You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thank you for listening. Coming up, we will recap Week 2 and get you set for all the action of Week 3, including our Spotlight Game of the Week, Tulane against Southern Miss. We'll talk about that with JP Gooderham of FearTheWave.com. Plus, we'll talk about the rankings, Players of the Week, and more on this show. Well, Tulsa took a 7-3 lead into the fourth quarter against number 11 Oklahoma State, but the Cowboys rallied for a 16-7 victory in Stillwater. Linebacker Zaven Collins led a stout Tulsa defense with 2 sacks and 4 tackles for a loss. The Golden Hurricane registered 6 sacks and 18 tackles for loss collectively. As far as that spirited effort was concerned, here now is Golden Hurricane head coach Philip Montgomery.
Really proud of our football team. I thought our defense had a tremendous game plan, had a great game. You know, they've got so many weapons offensively. And I thought for the most part, as a defense, I thought we did a great job of running to the football, tackling, eliminating some of those explosive plays, and very, very proud of their effort. Offensively, you know, we've got some work to do. Just, you know, hurt ourselves with too many unforced penalties. We had too many penalties as a team today. You know, some of that's first game stuff that we got to get corrected. We're going to learn a lot off of this tape. But, you know, at times I thought we made some big plays, had some explosive runs in there. Just didn't put things away when we had opportunities. Got to convert when you're down in the red zone. You got to make those opportunities count and happen and finish them with touchdowns. But I was proud of our football team. I thought we played extremely hard. And obviously, you know, just needed to get over the hump right there at the very end, had that opportunity to go down and take the lead back. And, you know, just ended up not executing at a good enough level right there. So
the Naval Academy was staring a 24-0 deficit square in the face after having been trounced by BYU in their opening game 55-3. They had been outscored 79-3 in its first 2 games. The Green Wave were on the verge of taking a 31-0 lead into the break, but Cameron Kinley picked off a pass to the 3-yard line just before halftime, giving them a spark as they went into the locker room, and the second half was all Navy as they outscored the Green Wave 27-0 in the final 30 minutes, capped by a 33-yard field goal by Bijan Nichols at the final gun, giving Navy its only lead of the game as time expired. As far as that big rally was concerned, here's Navy head coach Ken Niumatalolo.
We've had a lot of great wins over the years here, but I don't know if any of them are greater than that win. Just a great testament to our players, their fortitude, their character. You know, Coach O'Rourke said something in our team meeting, which I thought is very, very, very true. He said adversity either, I don't remember how he said it, but just either brings out your character or illuminates it. And our character came out, the players. That first half looked like the third half of the BYU game. I like, oh, crap. You know, we couldn't stop them, and we couldn't move the ball an inch. I mean, it was as bad of, you know, well, like I said, it looked like a continuation of the BYU game, just the third half. And I thought, to me, the play of the game was Cam's pick. I thought Cam's pick, Cameron Kinley's pick at the end of the half, just gave us some life. I mean, we could have went down 31-0, but I think that pick just kind of gave us some life. Obviously, Dalen, what a tremendous young man. You know, he earned a spot. I benched him. You know, he was down, you know, and Coach Jasper and I talked to him, but he's a great kid. He could easily went in the tank, but he continued to do the best he could to practice and do all that he could. And, you know, offensively, he brought us back, you know, just with his passes, just running our offense. Our defense came alive in the second half. And, they were running the ball, really well in the first half, and then they couldn't run in the second half.
UCF made their record 36-4 over its last 40 games as they were impressive with a season-opening 49-21 win at Georgia Tech. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel, career-high 417 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. The offense gained 660 yards as wide receiver Marlon Williams had 10 catches for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Jalen Robinson had 6 for 105 as both went over the 100-yard mark. Here's Knights head coach Josh Heupel.
Just the build-up of what's happened here over the last 6 months. So I said to the players in the locker room, the uncertainty of tomorrow for the last 6 months, when are we going to get back together? When am I going to be able to come back to school and work out? When do I get to be around my teammates? Do we get to practice? Don't we get to practice? Are we going to play? Or are we not going to play? They didn't know until 9:30 this morning for sure that we were going to play. It's a group that the brotherhood is real. It's strong here inside of our locker room. They do love one another, man. Really proud of them for staying the course together and growing together over the last 6 months. They've made our coaching staff better. We're closer. We're better as a football family than we were when we got away from each other in early March. Today, for them to go out and compete the way that they did, we give up a kick return early, right? Ball's on the, 25-yard line, 30-yard line. They hit one play, go score. Defense doesn't flinch, goes and causes 6 turnovers the rest of the day, man. Played lights out. Offensively, do some really good things in the first half. Obviously, the turnover on the fumble, but where you got a chance to continue to punch the score up a little bit. Then the third quarter, we just never got into a rhythm, played behind chains, didn't play with tempo. They pull it to a 2-possession game, and they answer right back. Marlon played fantastic, played strong. Trey Nixon played his butt off. Some young wideouts played really well when given the opportunity. Jalen Robinson made a bunch of plays, and God, you just look at the ability of our kids and our team to adjust. Really proud of what they did during the 60 minutes of football.
SMU improved to 2-0 as the Mustangs looked equally sharp offensively. A 65-35 victory at North Texas. The Mustangs finished with 710 yards of offense, good for 4th in program history. Shane Michelle, 344 yards and 4 touchdowns. They had a 200-yard rusher in Ulysses Bennett, the 4th. He had 227 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 2 100-yard receivers. Reggie Roberson, 9 for 103, and Rashley Rice, 5 for 102 with a touchdown. Cincinnati had no trouble scoring points in its season opener. The Bearcats overwhelmed Austin Peay 55-20. Their 14th straight win at Nippert Stadium. Running back Jared Dokes found the end zone 4 times, 3 by ground, 1 by air. And quarterback Desmond Ritter was efficient, 13-19, 196 yards. And he rushed for a team-high 57 yards on 4 carries. And it was a tough outing for the South Florida Bulls as they were trounced by Notre Dame 52-0, dropping the Bulls to 1-1 on the season. Houston was scheduled to play Baylor, but that ended up being canceled due to COVID. So Houston lost 2 games on the same date because of the virus, and tough sledding there as far as things are concerned for the Cougs. Turning our attention to this weekend's schedule, UCF will be at East Carolina for the Pirates home opener at noon on Saturday. This game originally scheduled for ESPN+, but due to Notre Dame having to cancel because of COVID, this game moves to ABC. East Carolina leads the all-time series 10-8. UCF romped in last season's game in Orlando by a 41-28 score. Army at Cincinnati, that'll be 3:30 on ESPN. The series tied all time at 3 each. Army won the last meeting way back in 2004 by a 48-29 score. Tulsa is at Arkansas State. That'll be 3:30 Saturday on ESPN2. Arkansas State leads the series 3-2, and they won the last meeting in 2018 by a 29-20 score. South Florida at Florida Atlantic. That'll be 6 p.m. Saturday evening on CBS Sports Network. The Bulls lead the series 3-1, and the last meeting was back in 2013. Florida Atlantic had the 28-10 victory march there. North Texas and Houston, 7 p.m. Saturday night on ESPN+. The Cougs lead the all-time series 8-7 and were victorious last year 46-25. Stephen F. Austin at SMU, that'll be 7 p.m. ESPN+. The Mustangs lead the series 3-0 and won the last meeting in 2017 by a 58-14 score. Coming up next, we look at our Spotlight Game of the Week, Tulane at Southern Miss with JP Gooderham of FearTheWave.com. That's next when the AAC Report continues in just a moment.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
And our Spotlight Game of the Week, Tulane at Southern Miss. Joining us now to talk about that, JP Gooderham of FearTheWave.com. JP, it's great to have you back on the show once again.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
Well, JP, interesting first 2 weeks for the Green Wave. They have a big come-from-behind win over South Alabama, 27-24, and then this past weekend, they have a 24-0 lead against Navy, and Navy comes back and wins by a 27-24 score. So I guess the first question is, based on these first two games and the wide disparity between them, do you have any idea what this football team is in 2020?
What a roller coaster. I think that as a Tulane fan, and this is what I posted, it really shakes your understanding of life in the universe when you're up 24-0 at halftime. I believe that just comparing yardage, it was like 10 first downs to 1. I want to say 298 Green Wave yards to 38 for the midshipmen. This wasn't just a 24-0 game when we look back on Saturday. It was completely a situation where the Green Wave was in control. And a great comparison is just the week before where Tulane had started slow against South Alabama in the first game of the season. And they came back and they took it to the Jaguars in the fourth quarter and ultimately won that game. So, if you kind of think about it from our perspective, you look at this game against Navy and you think, okay, this team had a great second half against South Alabama. They're pulverizing a team that had a first place vote in the AAC poll. This is really coming together. And you just feel, the kind of soul of this program getting pulled out as Navy ends up completely dominating the second half. Tulane had very little fight basically at that point going forward. And now on top of that, they are going to play a Southern Miss team that, while in turmoil in the sense that, of course, the Mustard Buzzards have already let go of their coach this year, they're going to be very motivated for this game. And so Tulane has very little time to figure out what happened on Saturday and rebound because there's another game that I think is going to be pretty challenging awaiting us on Saturday.
Yeah, and Southern Miss, they're a team that also kind of suffered the same fate. Had a lead on La Tech and ended up giving that away.
It's an interesting comparison, and I think Southern Miss fans, a week removed or so from firing their coach, you see them go and play a Louisiana Tech team, and they gave that lead away. But it seems like their fan base looks at that and felt like they saw their team showing some more fight. They have a new, young interim head coach. It's interesting. Those are you've got two teams that are coming off heartbreakers where they were firmly in control by 3 scores or more. And, someone has to find it on Saturday. And I think obviously Tulane felt like they had a much higher outlook for this season than I think Southern Miss did. I think that was certainly true after Southern Miss let go of their coach, or that their coach resigned. And it's going to be very interesting to see how much fight this Tulane team has. And, trying to come back from a very emotional moment for the program, like we saw on Saturday on ABC.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the Navy game was, Navy had just gotten destroyed by BYU in their opening game, and all they had was 3 points to show through 6 quarters of football, and then for them to rise up the way they did. I guess our armed services are in good hands going forward. But you sit there and think, a lot has to go right for Navy, and a lot has to go wrong for Tulane. So what did go wrong?
Well, I think there's a few different things. I want to first give some credit to Navy here in that they fought back. One of the things that they did to start the game was they opened with their youngest quarterback in program history in terms of starting as a freshman. And the kind of new third-string Navy quarterback who was coming in and taking over the reins did not look like they were in a position to succeed at that point. And when they went back and switched to their first starting quarterback, who they started with against BYU, he was pulled because he had a really bad first half against them. I mean, he looked confident. I think what he did well was he came in and was able to pass the football, which added a different dimension, which added a spark. And when that happened, while obviously Navy has struggled at the quarterback position with finding somebody who can step in and replace Malcolm Perry, who was outstanding last year, it's not like they don't have other guys on offense. Once they started feeding Carruthers, who's their fullback, he has been effective, especially on the dive play, for years against Tulane. I mean, he really did damage to us last year, and he did a great job. And at that point, Navy was able to get something going. And I could talk about this for 30 minutes, but I would really highlight two things that Tulane I would highlight as a big problem, right? And one of them is Tulane's inability to find consistency in passing the football over now really every year of the Fritz era has been a huge challenge for this offense, because Tulane has been really effective in running the football and has some great running backs this year. But when you don't have someone who can complete the pass on the 3rd and 7, you're always going to be in a challenge when you get down in the distance, especially in those later downs. And we've now heard from Fritz that the quarterback job is open behind Keon Howard, who is a Southern Miss transfer, who could be the starting quarterback on Saturday. There are two pretty respected, but they are true freshmen in Justin Ibieta and Michael Pratt. And I think there is an argument to be made that any of those three players could be seen on Saturday. So that would be one, is just the lack of success at the quarterback position, led to a lot of problems for us, especially as we've gone to the second half. But the other dimension of that is that Tulane very strangely seemed uncommitted to the running game that had been so successful. And we saw some situations in the third quarter when things started to turn. It was raining. It was a challenging, game from a condition standpoint, and Tulane was trying to pass. And maybe part of that was that there was a big lead there, and this was an opportunity to get some experience for Keon Howard coming in, who hadn't really settled into that role yet. And it was very surprising to see that, because it didn't feel like Navy had a great ability to stop the run. And I think the kind of critical play that was an example of that was with 2 minutes left. Tulane had a 4th and 3 across midfield, and instead of giving it to Ty Spears or Amari Jones, Tulane went for the home run. They went for a long fade route, which didn't work out. And when that occurred, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the running game. Spears had 119 yards, Carroll had 62, Jones had 41, and you figure, if you're getting 6-7 yards a pop on the ground, more often than not, you're going to be successful.
You think so? I mean, and that's the thing is, Tulane still has what's gone well for them offensively, especially under new offensive coordinator Will Hall last year, is that having those talented running backs in the system, having some really dynamic backs can be really dangerous in this league where you play some good defenses. But, if you kind of look at the drive chart, when they came back in the third quarter, it was just kind of 3 and out after 3 and out. And that's how you let a very motivated Navy team back in the game. And it just felt like once that momentum turned, it just became kind of a foregone conclusion that they were going to pull it out, which is pretty wild. And, to lose a game like that, there's some bad luck that's going to happen. Tulane at the end of the first half was driving, and Keon Howard threw an interception, and you think, okay, if they had just got their 3 points or had a touchdown, maybe the game is out of reach. Maybe that's the backbreaker moment in that game. But that's not what happens. And at the end of the day, we all hear the cliche about how football is a game of inches, and Navy was the one who seized on that momentum and got it done. So this is certainly, I think, a low point for a lot of Tulane fans, and something that a lot of us are kind of reeling over as fans as we go deeper in the season.
Yeah, of course, you just got to strap them up and play the following week. And, of course, Willie Fritz got a contract extension through 2026. Was that something that was in the works, or are they kind of making a move to make sure other teams don't come sniffing around?
Yeah, so prior to this game, the formal, I should say, I guess it's not really a formal announcement, but a number of national college football writers reported that Willie Fritz now has a 7-year contract extension that runs through 2026. That was not surprising. So back in December, after Tulane when Tulane was preparing to go play in the Military Bowl against Southern Miss, it was reported by The Athletic that this was in the works. And for anyone who follows Tulane's football program, there has been interest, pretty consistently as Tulane has found more success in the football field in Willie Fritz. And he, some of the names that kind of seemed to kick the tires last year or were considered possible landing spots were programs like Missouri or Arkansas. And I think this is a moment for the program where we believe that, the success that Tulane has been able to have and having more consistency with 2 7-win seasons in a row. The fact that the recruiting rankings have changed pretty radically, where Tulane for years was in the bottom of the ACC. Tulane had the best recruiting class, I believe, or second to best recruiting class last year, and this year is kind of up there again. I think there were a number of positive signs where Tulane wants to be in a position where, we have a shot to keep Willie Fritz here for as long as he wants to coach. And obviously, as UCF knows, there are some situations where, it's pretty hard as a group of 5 program to do that, if a Nebraska comes calling. But I think for Tulane, the key thing is we want to make sure that it's going to become a lot harder for, let's say, Kansas or a school like that to be able to make a move. And the way you do that is by increasing the buyout and by, increasing the salary pool for his assistants. This is something that a lot of Tulane fans, they want to see the opportunity for Fritz to stay in and keep building this thing. And that was the real focus.
Yeah, no question about that. And it is good to be able to lock him in long-term, that's for sure. So the team has seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows early on in the season. How do you think they move forward from here through the rest of the campaign?
I think there's still some positive things that Tulane can take away. I think the defense has, in some spots looked pretty good this year, especially the defensive line and being able to generate pressure. I think that the running backs that we have, particularly looking at Amari Jones and looking at Tyjae Spears, they are the guys who we thought they were going to be. And I think the big question as we look at Southern Miss is what Fritz chooses to do with the quarterback position. And do you go to a freshman who might have more upside, but is going to learn and is going to make mistakes? Or do you kind of ride things out with Keon Howard, who, everyone has said he's shown great leadership skills, but at the same time, the on-field performance really hasn't been what I'm sure the coaching staff wanted in these first 2 games. So it's a big question. I think that Tulane needs to figure out something here with how to build more consistency into the offense. And it'll be very interesting to see what we find in Hattiesburg, Mississippi this weekend.
Yeah. And, I guess one thing, having a good running game does allow you some opportunity to work a freshman in because it does take some of the pressure off.
I think that's exactly right. And I think that, if you're looking for what Tulane needs to do to be successful, they're not looking for a passer who's going to go out and have 300 or 400 yards a game passing necessarily. But what you do need, I think, is someone who, A, has the confidence and the competence to be able to build some chemistry and rapport with this wide receiver core, who also is pretty new. Tulane's replacing a number of guys who, are going to be out there catching passes. And I think trying to see if we can find something better in the passing game is part of it. And I think the other aspect of that is that you want the quarterback to also be confident in running the football. For anyone, in the UCF fan base who remembers or watched much of Tulane last year, Justin McMillan was not, I don't think he was a prototypical passer, but at the same time, he was very willing to make the read. He was willing to keep the ball, and he was pretty excited about making plays with his feet, especially as he got into his senior year. And I think out of a Tulane quarterback this year, you need to have that dimension. If Tulane can really build on its identity as a running team and use the pass to complement what they're doing, that seems to be the recipe for success.
Well, so far, we've seen some action in the American, and you've had a few games fall by the wayside, and you've been kind enough to allow me to participate in your weekly conference poll. And how are things looking on this week's poll?
It's great. It's great to have you, Jeff. And I think a lot of the discussion and what's so hard about it this year for us as voters, and also for the AAC fans out there who are looking at it, is there just hasn't been a lot of games. I mean, how crazy is it that at earliest we're going to see the Houston Cougars for the first time on September 26th? You never see something like this, and so it's going to be very interesting as we look at these kind of top teams in the conference who have been consistently the Cincinnati Bearcats, UCF, and then Memphis. And with Memphis now having a prolonged, pause in their season because of their COVID situation, it's definitely tough to kind of rank them. I'm going to have the rankings up for this week pretty shortly here. But I think what UCF did in really controlling a game against a quote-unquote Power 5 program against Georgia Tech was one of the most meaningful games that we've seen in the AAC this year. I think the big question is going to be, how do those three teams separate themselves? And any of these teams who we've seen as being in the middle of the pack, is there anyone else there who can kind of step into that upper echelon? And I think until we see some more games, it's going to be tough for Houston to make that kind of jump, if any of those teams have the ability to do it. So that's definitely going to be a storyline that I watch throughout the season.
Yeah, and in SMU, could definitely be a factor in that equation. And I think you're right about Memphis having that pause this season. That is kind of an open window opportunity for somebody.
Yeah, and it's you look at having a layoff like this too, and how does that affect their ability to grow and develop as a team? And I agree. I think you look at SMU, if you're looking at the teams that don't have any dings on them right now, SMU would be one of them, and they've played some games, but they haven't had like a Navy or a Tulane. They haven't had that kind of poured cold water on you moment of reality setting in. And I think, this is a weird season. And I think it's going to test teams in ways that we don't see in a typical college football season. And it's going to be very interesting to see who can handle that adversity on a week-to-week basis, whether it's losing personnel or having guys who have to sit out of practice or having a game canceled. And I think as this season continues on, which I hope that it does is as planned as much as possible, I think October is really going to be the time when we're going to start to get a sense of who's for real and who isn't.
Yeah, it definitely is something to keep an eye on because it can change from moment to moment, that's for sure. So, JP, please, before you go, make the shameless plug for your work.
Let's get shameless. Well, thanks for having me. And again, Jeff, great having you in our AAC blogger poll. Everybody make sure to look out for that. Each Monday it comes out. We really enjoy that and getting some discussion from both our bloggers who are voting and for fans of AAC teams. For anyone interested in Tulane, you can find us on Twitter at Fear the Wave blog. We also have a weekly newsletter at fearthewave.substack.com. And Jeff, thank you very much for having me.
You're quite welcome, JP. Appreciate it. Tulane at Southern Miss. That'll be Saturday at 2:30. That'll be streamed on Stadium, and I believe some of the regional sports networks pick up that as well. Southern Miss leads the all-time series 23-8, but Tulane won the last meeting by a 30-13 score. And by the way, as we break out and give you the schedules each and every week, always note, because of COVID, they are subject to change. When we come back, we'll look at the polls, the conference players of the week, and more when the AAC report comes back after a quick timeout.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Nightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong. Spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Yeah. Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Nightline Sports Network. Thank you for your time, and now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Oh, wait. I'm being told in my ear that this is a podcast, and there are no schedules. Well, this is awkward.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Fagley reminding you to tune in every Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app for Nightline at Night. Brought to you by Chad Bar Law. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Nightline at Night, every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app. Go Knights and charge on.
In the week of college football polls, we still have 3 teams representing the AAC. In the AP poll, UCF and Cincinnati have flip-flopped. The Knights at number 13, Cincinnati at 14, Memphis at number 17. By the way, the Tigers have had another game this week ending up being canceled, so they will be out of action yet another week. In the coaches poll, UCF is at 15, dropping 2 spots. Cincinnati at 16, Memphis at number 20. Of course, the coaches poll has brought the Big Ten back into the equation now that that conference is going to play, but they still won't play for another month yet. Shaking my head. Conference players of the week for week number 3, the offensive player of the week, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback from UCF. It was also the Walter Camp Football Foundation National Offensive Player of the Week. A career-high day in the Knights' 49-21 win at Georgia Tech. 27 of 41 for a career-high 417 yards, 4 touchdowns. The 5th player in program history to throw for more than 400 yards with 4 touchdowns in a game. And he earned the 2nd Walter Camp of his young career, first earning the honor as a freshman last year. The defensive player of the week, Diego Fagot of Navy, the linebacker, led a Navy defense that held Tulane to 82 total yards and no points in the second half in the Midshipmen's 27-24 rally on the road in their ACC opener. He had 9 tackles to go with 2 for a loss, a sack, and 2 pass breakups. Special teams player of the week, we've got a couple there. Bijan Nichols of Navy scored just 5 points, but delivered the victory with the 33-yard field goal at game's end to give Navy that victory. And Chris Nagar of SMU, the kicker from Arlington, Texas, is a second week in a row recipient. He scored 17 points, 11 for 11 on extra points, and made all 3 of his field goal attempts from 37, 22, and 46 yards, and 8 for 8 again on PAT. So it was 11 for 11 kicks overall, and sure, he's icing that leg down as we speak. And one final note, former Memphis women's soccer standout Stacia Mellon has been named a top 30 honoree for the NCAA Woman of the Year, the selection committee announced last week. Selected from a record 605 school nominees, a group that was then narrowed to 161 nominees by conference offices. The top 30 honorees include 10 from each of the 3 NCAA divisions. All have demonstrated excellence in academics, athletics, community service, and leadership. The honorees competed in 14 sports and study a broad range of academic majors, including nursing, medical engineering, biochemistry, criminal justice, kinesiology, accounting, and advertising. As we mentioned earlier, football schedule's always subject to change, and you can keep up with that by following my Twitter feed at JeffAllen_88 and also at UCF_Nightline. That wraps it up for this week's edition of the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.